Good morning, everybody. Alrighty. Uh, sorry, I'm a minute late, but um, I'm here. I'm going to turn my chat box on so I can hear you guys say good morning to me and tell me how you're feeling. Good morning. How are you feeling? Get my herbal tea. You know my tea. Good morning. I'm feeling awesome. I'm feeling awesome. Good morning. Good. Alrighty. So let me just kind of take that in for a second. I'm well and energetic. Very good. Anybody else feeling great? Everybody's been feeling so. The weather's a little chilly outside, is it? I didn't do my morning walk yet. Today, uh, yesterday was my day for doing resistance training. So today, I'm basically going to do my autophagy stuff, my cleaning out my system, my cell repair, right? And so during this session, we're going to talk about just kind of the blueprint. So I'm going to give you some prelude information about what it is that I'd like you to try. Now, grant, granted that not everybody is going to get the same results, but if you stick to the protocol and you kind of gather information so that we know what it is that we're doing, we should do just fine. I've had a lot of examples of people who says, Doc, I do 18-6 or I do 16-8. And what that means is that I do 18 hours of fasting and 6 hours of window. So basically they kind of eat from 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock. That's the 6 hour feeding window. And that the rest of that 24 hour they're fasting. But almost to a T, I was asking, okay, fine. So you get up in the morning and you just drink coffee, tea, and water, or mostly water. And almost everybody says, no, I have my cup of coffee and I put a little creamer in it, or I have. And so people, you got to understand that when we're talking about fasting, and fasting is one of the first principles of the whole process we're talking about. That fasting is pretty sensitive to any sort of calories. Any sort of calories you take in, including creamer, powdered creamer, don't really care what kind of creamer or material you put in there. If it has calories, it breaks the fast. And so if you've been doing the 18-6 or the 16-8 forever, and you've had a cup of coffee with creamer in it in the morning, or a cup of orange juice, or somebody even told me, oh, I just kind of get up in the morning and I'll have me an energy drink to get started, but I'm still fasting. No, pray not. Pray not. So the importance of fasting is what we're going to talk about today, primarily because that is one of the core pillars. We have four of them. One of the core pillars of how we maintain the weight loss. Okay, so I'm talking to people who are trying to lose weight, trying to lose weight, and not necessarily just trying to lose weight with surgery. If you're trying to lose weight because you've had surgery and you regain the weight, cool. If you're trying to lose weight after surgery, or if you're trying to lose weight not even having surgery, I'm talking to everybody. The fasting component is extremely important. And if you want to just know the history of that, just Google it. Google it because obviously your ancestors didn't eat 3 meals a day, did they? 6 meals a day? Well, give me a break. No. No, your ancestors were fasting pretty much all the time because they had to go hunt for their food. And food wasn't plentiful then. You just couldn't order the Uber Eats where it just kind of comes to your door. You don't even have to get out anymore. So we live in a world of abundance. And that world of abundance is having an effect on us. And we have to figure out ways to combat that. So today we're going to talk about blueprints. And all I'm asking you to do is take this blueprint and then just utilize it. It cannot be based upon how you feel. And that's the main concept that I want to leave you with today is that it's just People tell me, well, doc, I'm just not feeling hungry, so I didn't take my protein in. That's got to go away. And it can go away. You just basically put it on a timer. 12, 3, 6, and 8. 12, 3, 6. Right? Just put it on a timer, put it on your watch. And regardless of what happens, go ahead and take that protein in and then go ahead and do that fasting. Those two pillars are the key to kind of getting your body's oxidation of fat. And what I mean by oxidation of fat is burning fat. That's what we want to do. We have too much fat. We want to oxidize it. And there are all sort of drugs trying to, like I was saying last week, there are all sort of drugs trying to emulate what it is that we really, really need to kind of work on and focus on doing it naturally. Because every single drug that they come out with, every single one, is going to have side effects. It's going to be costly at first. The price is going to come down. Not worried about the cost. What I am worried about is a society that I'm trying to wean off of drugs, diabetic medicine, statins, high blood pressure medicines, and there are more and more newer drugs that people want to try. So we're at a crossroads here. What are we going to do with life? And so these side effects of the drugs work. I mean, I can make almost any drug and it'll work while you're taking it. But are we going to take it for the rest of our lives? Which is kind of what you have to do, all right? Because almost even the newer drug, retatrutide, which is supposed to be the king of all kings, is coming out. It's obviously out there now in the bodybuilding world now. But what that particular drug does is it has three receptor agonists, not only the GLP-1, the GIP, right? And basically the third one is the one that actually increases the fat oxidation in the liver, the glucagon reception. And so somebody asked me, said, what is glucagon? Wasn't that the one we were trying to avoid? Doesn't that release glucose into the system? Yeah, that's what it's supposed to do. But basically, when you combine it with the GIP and the GLP-1, it has a fat oxidation effect in the liver. So we talk sometimes about de novo lipogenesis when you're taking too much cholesterol, when you're taking too much carbohydrates, refined carbohydrates, the body begins to raise insulin, push fat into the push that glucose into the liver. That glucose into the liver. Let's see. Yeah, that glucose into the liver makes fat, and it's called de novo lipogenesis. Well, that particular drug takes that and actually takes advantage of it. And it's sort of so that fat that's being converted in the liver is now burned off. And burning off fat in the liver, yeah, it's a big deal. It is a big deal because the liver is one of our main organs, and burning fat in the liver, increasing fatty oxidation does a lot of good things. Because a lot of things go to the liver to help our bodies. Okay, but it has muscle loss effects. It's expensive now. It will be expensive when it's released. It's still in phase 3 trials. But again, my point being, at some point in time, you and I, from physician to patient, or physician or friend to friend, if we're going to be friends, we've got to decide, do we want to live our lives on drugs? Or do we want to live our lives and get to it the way that we're supposed to get to it by just eating whole foods, eating the right amount of protein, pulsing protein. All I'm doing during these little sessions is giving you tools of how to eat correctly and basically the newer science on how to exercise as well. Because the body is meant to move, and that's what exercise is about. Our way of moving now every single day, because we're sitting in the office in the chairs 8 hours a day. And some people are working at Home Depot and moving all day, but that is not the strenuous type of moving that I'm talking about. So we have to incorporate exercise to emulate the movement that our bodies were meant to do, like our ancestors. Okay. that's the beginning. I'm going to get right into it because I'm going to make an effort to try to break this down to 1 hour. Let me go ahead and share my slides. Let's see if I can get the right one up. All right. I'm going to share that desktop screen. See if I can figure it out. Let me just hit that one. I was making a slide. No, it's still generating. This is a cool feature right here, but let me just kind of go first to this is not it. Let's go to this one. Everybody remember this one, right? Hmm. So what we're going to be talking about today is metabolic engineering, fiber first, protein all day. And that fiber first, protein all day is something that I want you to kind of couch away in the back of your mind. And let's see if I can make this into a full slide. I can. All right. So we have to have fiber, but there are four components. We have to have fiber, we have to have protein, we have to have fasting, and we have to have exercise. That's pretty much the core of how we're supposed to do this without the drugs. Now, am I totally against drugs? No, I've written several prescriptions this week, but I use those prescriptions for the Bumujara, the terzepatides, and all that, just for people who are stuck, for people who are very, 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 very much uh, obese and who wants to get started before we do surgery on them. So yeah, I use the drugs, but again, I use them as a tool, a temporary tool. I don't plan on using that tool forever like the drug companies want you to. Primarily because there's just no long-term data. There's no long-term data that shows that it does what it's supposed to do long-term. We just don't have it. But if I was to do my crystal ball thing and look at the muscle loss or the lean mass loss that is causing, um, and as we begin to age, bone loss and muscle loss is you're not going to get that back. Now, when you're in your 30s or late 20s and early 30s, you lose a little muscle mass. Yeah, you can probably get that back. You got 40 years to get it back. But when you get close to your 40s and your 50s and your 60s, losing muscle mass can be detrimental and can be serious. And the chances of getting that back are going to be you can get it back, but it's going to be a lot harder to do. And the question is, are we going to be willing when we're 50 and 60 to really, really do the hard work of getting that muscle mass back? I did it. I basically tried to get the muscle mass back, but I don't have the muscle mass that I used to have when I was in my earlier age group. I went from one obese level to the level where I says I need to get muscle mass back. But it was a lot easier to get muscle mass when I was in my 40s than it certainly is now in my 70s. Okay. So at some point in time, when we begin to lose muscle mass, if we begin to lose muscle mass in our 40s and 50s, we're going to have a tough time getting it back. All right. So our metabolic engineering is basically fiber first, protein all day, and again fasting and exercise. Okay. All right. Nutrition Network. So the plan that I have, I developed an app, and I'm going to be able to give a lot of you all this app hopefully next week. And it's going to be a free app, but it's going to kind of give you this plan, and it's something that'll give you the blueprint so that it'll help track you. Okay. And so it's sort of my me being your metabolic coach. And what I want to do is to be able to give it away so we can gather data. It'll be an app that I can gather data with you, and I can actually see if the stuff that I'm talking about uh, rhymes with the stuff that's actually in the literature. It says that it works, but I've never done a prospective study on it. This is not going to be a double-blind, randomized prospective study because I'm going to give the app to almost anybody. but it's going to be something that's going to give us some information. Because to be quite honest with you, this mechanism, based upon all the science and research that I've done in sports medicine and bariatric surgery and, and in nutrition, it should work. It should work, and I'd be willing to bet a dime on it that it would work. But without a long-term study, it's just an opinion, right? So, so it should work. But I'm gonna do the study and get you all involved in it. All right. I think I opened up the wrong thing here. So that's me. Yeah, I did open up the wrong one. Let me see if I can get the right one. But anyway, this is me. This is in Spanish. Uh, I don't know how come I get the wrong one all the time. But this is me with this says I have atrial fibrillation. I had malcongestive heart failure. I had elevated blood pressure, and I was sick. This was only a decade ago, 2 decades. Yeah, this was a while back, but it's still, I was sick. And it's primarily all because of this area right here. I wasn't too fat in my arms. I wasn't too fat. I didn't have much of a butt, thank goodness. But I basically had it all right here. And this is the visceral fat. This is that white fat. That's that dangerous inflammatory fat. You got that? Everybody who's on this call, you got that? We got to get rid of that. That's the stuff that leads to heart attacks, strokes, and long-term disability, primarily because you're losing your memory, you get Alzheimer's disease. So imagine getting Alzheimer's, dementia, having a heart attack and a stroke all at the same time. I know a person like that, and it's devastating. And so we want to avoid that. We want to avoid having to have a walker that we walk with and get around with in our 60s. Where are we going to go? Where are we going to go with that with the walker? You all know the people that have the walker. I'm not bashing anybody, but we can avoid that. If we're not already on a walker, we can avoid that. And if you are young enough and you're on a walker, we can reverse that. And that's what we're going to talk about doing. This is on 205 pounds. So I went from 205 to 210. I've fluctuated between that. This is me right now. Anytime you see me purse my lips like that, I'm sucking it in. So you would think that, boy, if I can suck it in, I'll give me a six pack. I didn't quite get there. All right. And this is me now, basically at 168 pounds, something like that. And so I was able to get rid of the white fat. I was able to turn that white fat into brown fat, the metabolically active fat. And I'm going to show you how. This whole process is I'm going to show you how to take that white fat and turn it around. Because there's a myokine, there's a drug in your body, in your pharmacy. You have a pharmacy in your body. And it didn't cost me a thing, as far as money is concerned, at least. Cost me some effort, but it was generated from this thing called irisin. Irisin is that myokine in the muscle that turns white fat into brown fat. A miraculous thing, a really, really miraculous thing. You take an inflammatory fat, you shed some of it, and you turn the rest of it that just won't go away, you turn it into something that's actually good for you. It's turning this into metabolic fat that's actually helping you burn fat as you sleep. There we go. So that extra fat there was white fat and is now brown fat. All right. So that's going to be down at 168, 16. So I fluctuate now between 168, 172. All right. So that's me. So people always ask me, Doc, have you ever been fat? What are you doing lecturing us about being fat when you've never been there? Well, I've been there, done that. Not only, but we're just not talking about a cosmetic problem. If it was just cosmesis, I wouldn't have these Saturday webinars. What I'm talking about is atrial fibrillation, congestive heart failure, brain fog, probably linked to dementia. But today I can remember more things today than I could when I remember when I was 50 years of age. That's huge for me, primarily because I want to be able to remember things. I want to be able to remember things when I was in high school and, and things that, but that was going away. Now it's all back. But again, imagine this. There are a lot of people out there who are very, very elderly who have a great memory. You sit there and you talk to them on the porch and in the wheelchair, though. I want a bunch of 90-year-old and 100-year-olds. And I told you before, I'm recruiting those 90-year-olds and those 100-year-olds to have to have a volleyball team. Not only do I want us to get our memories back, avoid dementia, but I want us active so that we can actually have fun when we're old, when we're in our 90s. And I don't call old until we get to our 90s. All right. So let's get there together. All right. So that's me before and after. I was pursing my lips again, so I'm sucking it in. I don't know if I was pursing my, yep, I'm pursing my lips in both areas. Sucking it in here, sucking it in there. Not too cool. All right. I won't get on too much on the GLP-1 drug, so I'm going to stop this particular share and go right into, let me see if, I'm going to see if that other video has come out yet. Hold on a second. And as we go along, if you all have any questions, just go ahead and put it in. How do you get muscle back after the age of 50? I appreciate those questions. So every now and then I'll look to the, I don't know, screen left, screen right, and I'm reading the questions. All right. So after the age of 50, it is indeed tough, but it is possible. I I do it, and I'm still doing it, but it is possible. I have a good friend of mine who I did the surgery on, and basically, he's lost some muscle mass because he stalled, and we put him on the tirzepatide, and he's lost muscle mass, and he's working out, with I don't know 10, 15 pound weights. And he says, Doc, I'm getting my muscles and I'm contracting my muscles. Sure you are, but again, you got to have enough tension on those muscles that make your body say, I need that muscle. Now, for him to lift up 10 to 15 pounds, that's not telling his body that he needs those muscles. He needs a little bit more. So getting muscle back when you're 20, when you're 30 is a lot easier. You could probably lift 20, 30 pounds and just get muscle. But at the age of 50, once that muscle is gone, and that's what's so scary to me about the drugs. Once that muscle is gone, and it's going to be extremely difficult to get back. I have to lift to failure, and when I lift to failure, sometimes I just want to do 10 reps, right? We always 10 reps is what everybody tells you. Do 10 reps. Well, if you're going to do 10 reps, you got to do that. That 10th rep has to be something that you almost barely get up. Now, I know that's not what you want to hear. I know because you're not trying to become a bodybuilder, but facts are the facts. If you're not taking that 10th rep to failure or whatever, you can do 5 reps, but get a heavy enough weight or heavy enough band or do push-ups or wall push-ups, whatever you have to do, but make that last rep difficult to get because that signals to your body, I need that muscle. And if you don't signal to the body that you need that muscle, that your body needs that muscle, if you don't signal that to the body's going to say, this stuff, this muscle is expensive to keep around. It's requiring calories to keep it around. And the body is not made to be inefficient. The body is made to be efficient. So if it has a bunch of muscle that is being used or underused, it's going to get rid of it. That's the natural process. And that ain't got a thing to do with aging. We think that we're losing muscle mass because we age. That's not true. You're losing muscle mass because you're not paying attention to it. If you're not actually working on keeping your muscle mass, you're actively losing muscle mass, period. Period. So, got to keep it. All right. And so most people, when they came back to the office and they're stalling their weight and all that, they just kind of forget about the exercise. And I know it's not painful. I mean, I mean, it is painful. I know it's something that we just know that we don't have the time to do. But just again, play the tape forward and see yourself, when you're in your 90s. Do you want to be in a wheelchair? Do you want to be on a walker? Do you want to be able to travel? All right. Let's see if I can try to figure out how to share this again. Let me see if I can go back to that thing to see if that this is one of the let's see, one of the things that no, it's still trying to generate. So I'm going to basically go ahead and do this one. Uh, let's take the quiz first. Let's see if the people who are, if y'all can remember. Oh, well, we already took that quiz. You did it quickly. We did that quiz. All right. Let's see if it still works. Mhm. Topics covered. AMPK. Let's retake the quiz. Oh, I didn't know they had that little button there. Okay. So we're gonna retake the quiz. Let me see if I can increase this size of this. Not too big. 7 questions, 1 out of 7. 18-6 fasting protocol. Those of you who've been here before should be get all these right because we did them just a week ago. Today, towards the end of this, I am going to give you some information about the blueprint. This information, I'm taking the last several ones. We're going to be putting this information, especially the videos. Uh, I'm going to be putting those onto the website. I also am making them in Spanish. We'll be putting them onto our Spanish website, peachtreebariatrica.com. Our regular website is Peachtree Bariatrics with an S.com, and they'll be on the website. There'll be 2 formats on the website. The format is going to be the video, the short-term video, 7 8 minutes you'll watch it and you'll kind of get the gist. But then the to me the most powerful one that I'm going to kind of give you is the audio. And the audio is basically just kind of 2 people debating back and forth about it. And those 2 people debating back and forth about it, it's going to last about 20 minutes. You know what that's perfect for? You put your earphones on, you put your tennis shoes on, you put your workout on, and you go for a 20-minute walk. And by the time you're doing that walk, you're gathering information. I think that's going to be a cool thing to do. All right. In the 18 fast, meaning that we're fasting 18 hours. And as we talked about before, the reason I talk about 18-hour fast or 16-8, 16-hour fast is basically because we know that we begin to activate as when we keep our insulin levels down low, meaning that we're not taking anything in, meaning that we're fasting, insulin levels go down low. We activate AMPK. AMPK then tells our body to repair itself. We've got to repair itself. We've got misfolded proteins. We've got all sort of things going on. So we want to get that autophagy. That repair process doesn't occur until our insulin levels are down at least for 14 hours. So that every time you hear people talking about 18 hours of fasting, they're basically talking primarily because they're trying to get above that 14 hours. So 16 hours is a good one, 18 hours is a good one, but we're going to combine them to show you when to do which one because that's what my 3-3-1 protocol is. We're going to do 3 days of one, 3 days of the other, and the other one is just going to be a flexible day. You do what you want to. I don't mean to be that a cheat day. Somebody told me, so you're giving us a cheat day, Doc. No. I'm not going to give you a cheat day, but I'm going to make it easier on you. Okay. Tomorrow, I am going to get me a waffle and I'm going to show you how I'm going to do it. Waffles, you all know that used to be on my taboo list, along with pancakes, along with orange juice, along with cereals and all that kind of stuff. But I'm going to show you, I'm going to put some of these things in. And let me digress for a second. So I'm going to take my fiber, right? This is the fiber that I want you to take. Notice it's not green. Notice it doesn't have there's no cauliflower in here. There's no kale. So when I talk to you about fiber, I'm talking about this stuff, soluble fiber. 2 types of soluble fiber. One is to feed your microbiome, which we have got to talk about at some point in time, but we just don't have time to do it today. Uh, One is feed your microbiome. I don't know which one this is, but I think this is the one. Hold on a second. Okay. So I got to get one of these little things. These little things are cool. It just kind of stirs up things. All right. So so I have different types of fiber here. Okay. So I'm going to add a little bit of water to this one. Let's see what happens to this. And it's hard for me to tell which ones I mixed up. But okay, so I'm going to do it here. And so what we want this to do is to basically gel. This has to become a gel inside the stomach. Now, you can see if you drink this much, and we want to drink this with this only this amount to get it down. Because if you try to do it like the instructions tell you to do it, to drink it with 8 ounces of water, it's going to be hard for you to get it down, especially if you've had bariatric surgery. So I'm not going to try to tell you to do that. So, question is, what is this? What is this right here? Is it turning into a gel? Looks like it is turning into a little bit of a gel. All right. So we're gonna let that sit for a second. There's one that is indeed this one here is probably as far as the potency of gelling, it's probably pretty decent. But once you kind of get this into your stomach, then you want to take in the 8 ounces of water because this is only going to make about a 50-cent piece in your stomach, which is the size of a liter and a half Coke bottle, if you've not had surgery. All right. So we're going to watch this for a second, okay? And then I kind of know which one this is, and I'm going to go ahead and take it primarily because I don't want to waste it. But this is a mixture of around about 5 different types of fiber, in addition to one other. It basically gels so fast I couldn't get it in. Just gel really fast. Oh. So I'm going to have to take this in, and you can take it in like it's a pudding. It's okay. The faster it gels, the better. And this one is going to be something I'm going to take in. I'm going to take this in as a little bit of pudding. Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Not easy to get down once it gels. And then this final one, let's try this one. Let's, so some people bought some different types of fiber and they're taking. I'm sorry, GT. This one here, which one is this one? All right, this one here, this one here. Okay. So this one here, the brown one, is psyllium hug powder by itself. But I guarantee you, if I take this, it is the worst tasting stuff in the world. Mm. So I have to the one that I made, I put some of that brown stuff into that psyllium husk that you can get up on Amazon for 19 bucks. And I mixed it with the better tasting. This one contains glucomannan and locust bean gum and pectin fiber and oat bran fiber. It contains 5 different types of fiber. So I mixed that in with a little bit of the brown stuff just to make it taste better. Because even when this is the one that I'm talking about. This is the one that with the mixture. Even once it turns into a pudding and it's gelled already, it's one of the fastest gellers there is. It tastes great as far as I'm concerned. This one right here tastes good too. This is Metamucil. You can see it's gelled. Okay. So that's the Metamucil part. Now, the Metamucil part is more hydrolyzed because it was made primarily for tasting. And that hydrolyzation means that once that kind of gets into the stomach, once I add water to this again, it becomes less of a gel. And so it then is hydrolyzed again and it becomes less of a gel. So it's a little bit less effective. I'd rather you use the psyllium husk. Now, this is the one the patient bought in there to me. That's the Benefiber. The Benefiber was gel. I mean, was it says on the package that it's fiber. So the point of showing you this is that there has no gelling component to it at all. That's not the one we want, at least for the component of glucose spikes. What we're trying to control right now is glucose spikes. And Benefiber is good for your microbiome. Okay, it feeds your microbiome, but it is not going to control your glucose spikes. The glucose spikes leads to insulin spikes and lead to insulin resistance. This is not going to control that. It's just not. All these others will control that. Okay. All right. That's that lesson for today. Let's answer this question real quick. Let me see if nobody gave. Oh, I got a few answers. I got B. In the 18.6, which is triggered to initiate fat oxidation in cellular autophagy, mTOR, AMPK, protein kinase, insulin, or cestrin-1. These people are saying B, and that is right. Activated during low energy states. Low energy states, meaning that you had eaten anything, meaning that your insulin level is low because you hadn't eaten anything. You're in AMPK. That's the beginning. That's when you're starting to get in your autophagy. Your insulin is low. You take it in water. You take it in herbal tea without the sugar. You take it in coffee without the creamer. You are in this particular stage here, which promotes fat burning and the clearing of cellular debris. That's important. One, yeah, we're here to burn fat. We're here to learn to burn fat, but we're here also to get healthier. One of the things that takes the brain fog and makes it worse, or make the problem with other issues of your body, is the junk in your body. And so clearing the cellular debris is what our body has to do. And that keeping that insulin level down low allows us to do that. If we didn't do that, it's sort of like not having a bowel movement in months. Don't mean to be graphic, but it is. Okay. And you know what happens when you get constipated and it's just lasting a month. It's not going to end well. All right. Number two, what is the primary physiologic function of the glucose shield? The thing that I just demonstrated to you. The glucose shield, controlling the insulin spikes, controlling the glucose spikes. What is the primary physiologic function of the glucose shield provided by 10 grams of soluble fiber before a meal? And go back to the. All right. So A, to increase the absorption speed of carbohydrates for immediate energy. Is that right? To directly trigger the mTOR pathway for muscle growth. Is that right? To flatten the postprandial glucose curve and reduce insulin static. Is that right? To act as a broom that physically cleans the intestinal walls. Everybody get this right, please? You guys know, you all know the answer to this. I just did the demonstration. Are y'all paying attention? All right, so okay. All right. All right. Let me see. Okay. All right, so I got to do some more teaching because everybody said D, and D is not to act as a room that physically cleans the intestinal walls. That's the fiber from kale, spinach, asparagus. That's the vegetables that that basically we thought was the right thing that controls our glucose curves, but it's not. Your mama told you to eat your vegetables and you're going to grow up to be healthy. Partially true. You're going to grow up and you're going to get less incidence of colon cancer because you're keeping your colon clean. But the true answer is to flatten out that glucose curve because you're going to eat macaroni and cheese. I know it. You're going to eat some some spaghetti. You're going to eat some cornbread every now and then. You're going to even eat some barbecue with the sauce on it. And that's sugar, okay? So that's going to produce a glucose spike. That's what we've got to control. That's what we want to control because that glucose spike leads to insulin spike. Then a few hours later, you're going to eat a sandwich and you're probably going to keep the bread on it. That's a glucose spike. And then for dinner, you're probably going to have a baked potato along with your steak, along with your salmon. That's a glucose spike. The problem is the glucose spike goes up and then comes down and within an hour, hour and a half. The problem is that the insulin that follows the glucose spike doesn't come down in an hour and a half. It stays up, and it stays up for 3 or 4 hours. So if you're eating 3 meals a day, or worse, 4 meals a day, or worse, 5 or 6 meals a day, like the personal trainers used to tell you to do, your glucose is always up, and therefore your insulin is always up all throughout the day. And if your insulin is always up, your muscles and your tissues that depend upon insulin to push in the energy sources into the cells so that you can feed your mitochondria, it becomes immune to that. Imagine slapping yourself on the hand. Eventually, it'll hurt in the beginning, but you do that over hours and hours and hours and hours, and pretty soon you're not going to feel it because that hand is going to become numb. All right. It's going to become, take my word for it. Let me not do it for now. But it's going to become numb. That's insulin resistance. All right. So what's the big deal about insulin resistance? Well, for reasons that we can't go into here, insulin resistance is by definition the cause and the original state for chronic disease processes, including diabetes, which is the most notable, but also brain fog, dementia, cancer, even high blood pressure, elevated cholesterol, all the things that we are treating with pills today. Most of those things began with the disease process or the process of insulin resistance, our cells not listening anymore. So once our muscle cells become insulin resistant, that means that the door to the muscle cells don't open. Once our Once our liver becomes insulin resistant, that means our liver is a little different situation, but it can only hold so many grams of glycogen per day, 100 grams of glycogen per day. Y'all used to know that, but we've gotten so far away from that now. And so once the cells become insulin resistant, the last depot of material that becomes insulin resistant is your fat stores. But there are three places that your glucose is supposed to go to. We prefer to go to your muscle, but you've been doing this to your muscle because you've been insulin resistant. So your muscle says, I'm not answering the door anymore. Your liver's already full. You've eaten the potato, and you've eaten the bread, and you've eaten the macaroni and cheese, and you've eaten all the carbohydrates. So you fill the liver with glycogen. It says, nope, I ain't got no more room for you. Where is there to put it? Your last place to put is actually going to be in the fat. Okay. So anyway, insulin resistance, once it's in that fat and that fat causes that to grow into white fat, it becomes inflammatory. It produces IL-6, it produces C-reactive protein and all that stuff. It becomes inflammatory and it causes us to get sick. All right. So we want to control that insulin resistance, and so we have to control its origin. And the origin is the glucose spikes. All right. So can we do that? Yes, we can. We can do that by not taking in the potatoes, not taking in the macaroni and cheese, not taking in the toast, not taking in the bread on the sandwich, not taking in the bread on our hamburgers. We can do that. But are we? Chances are no. And so, what can we do about it? We take this stuff in. See, that's the Metamucil. So it's already hydrolyzed, so it's turned into water. So so you take this stuff in, and it sucks the glucose in. It sucks the LDL cholesterol in too. So if you have problems with cholesterol, this would be one of the first things you ought to ask your doctor, could you try, rather than the rovastatin or Lipitor or whatever they're giving you. But the thing that you want to do is that you want to buffer, you want to put a sponge in your stomach that sucks in glucose. This is that specialized sponge. It sucks in the glucose, so it makes the glucose that you're taking in, that baked potato, that macaroni and cheese, it makes it invisible to insulin. Insulin says, I don't see any glucose. They must have just eaten some fish. They must have just eaten some chicken. They must have just eaten some protein and not anything else, because I don't see anything, I don't see any sugar around because it got trapped in that fiber sponge. That's the power of fiber. And you guys have got to, you got to get, because I'm going to make this thing so simple for you, because all you're going to be taking in is fiber and protein and exercise and all that. But I'm going to give you the opportunity to take in the bread, to take in the macaroni and cheese every now and then. Don't go crazy with it, please, because there's only so much of this that you can control. One of the things that I want you to understand is that just taking a little small packet and putting it into your stomach, where it's just a little small glob, or a tiny, a mini sponge, let's say. It's a mini sponge. You take in a lot of macaroni and cheese and some bread and some pasta along with that, it's going to miss the sponge because it's just a small one. So make the sponge bigger. Take it in this small amount of water just to get it in, because it'll start thickening on the way down. But once you kind of get it into the stomach, expand it, make it a big sponge. And that's where the 8 ounces to 10 ounces of water comes in. So once you take that 8 to 10 ounces of water, after you've taken this in, you got a big sponge. Two things will happen. That big sponge takes up space. You're not going to feel hungry. So when you do eat that macaroni and cheese, it ain't going to be much. When you do eat that bread, it ain't going to be much, because that big sponge is doing two things: taking up space, making you feel full, and at the same time, it whatever you're doing, whatever you are taking in, is actually sucking that glucose in. All right. So that the reason I make these little questions short is because I go off on a tangent. Number three, according to the muscle centric framework, which is kind of the talk that I'm getting ready to give you, but I'm going to lay back and let the video do the talking. What is the minimum threshold of leucine required in a single sitting to flip the binary switch for muscle building? What is binary switch? Binary means off and on. It's your light switch. Some of you got dimmers. That ain't it. The ones that got that little thin flipper, this is called a binary. It's either lights on or lights off. Okay. So if you want, for example, the when you take in a certain amount of leucine, you're going to turn your muscle protein synthesis on, okay? But it has to be a certain amount. All right. So you can't take a 12-volt battery and jumpstart the battery in your car. You can't take one of those transistor batteries. I don't even know my batteries to, and jumpstart your car. You've got to give it a certain amount in order to jumpstart that car. So think of it that way, is that binary switch has to reach 2.5 grams. I just gave you the answer, didn't I? So it has to reach 2.5 grams in order to flip that switch on. Okay, in order to turn that battery over. Okay, so the minimum leucine threshold that requires to turn that muscle protein synthesis on. And what I'm talking about there, ladies and gentlemen, is maintaining muscle mass so you don't lose the muscle mass, so you don't lose your glucose sink. So, because with a combination of this and keeping your muscle mass around, you're basically going to suck that glucose in, and your body is going to thank you for it. Really, really is. Because now you don't have the glucose spikes, and you don't have the insulin resistance, and you don't have the diabetes, the hypertension, the sleep apnea, the triglyceridemia. You don't have the brain fog, the cancer, because you're keeping insulin down. So everybody has asked me, Doctor, you keep talking about insulin resistance. I thought that insulin was good. It is good. It is necessary. The problem is just that it's too much. And we're making it too much because we're putting too much glucose in our body. Yes, glucose is essential. You definitely need it. But too much of anything is too bad for you. I can drink this water, and if I drink only this water, I'm okay. But if I drink, gallons and gallons of this water in a single setting or something like that, I will drown. All my cells will become so water laden that it will cause me to have seizures and die. Water is a good thing, right? But too much water can kill you. All right. So too much of the insulin is the problem with insulin resistance. All right. All right. All right. Somebody says, can everyone see him? I think I have this problem every week for some reason. Is everybody able to see me? Or am I know I'm not the cutest thing in the world, but uh-oh. Somebody says no. I just see the quiz. I have my video on. I have it on. I just see the quiz. Somebody said yes, they can see me. Most people can say I can see the quiz too. Huh. I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's an iPhone or an Android thing. I have no idea. But I have my Android phone on, my iPad on, and I can see it both. That's how I can tell that it is showing to you guys. But anyway, let's go to the next one. I only have three more. Once the muscle full effect, and this is crucial, once the muscle full effect is triggered, how long does the muscle remain refractory? Because nobody who came into the office, and I saw 40 patients in the office this week, none of them knew that how much protein that they were taking in. None of them knew how much protein that the body can take in at one point in time and still be beneficial. Now you can take in protein as much as you want, as often as you want. But if we want to optimize our health, there's a certain way to do it. And that's what this whole talk is going to be about, is the blueprint, giving you the blueprint of how I want you to do it to optimize your health. So taking in protein 60, 70, 80 grams a day is okay. It's not optimal. Taking 120 grams of protein every day is good, but if you only do it in two doses, 60 in the morning and 60 in the evening, it's not optimal. So knowing these little pieces of the puzzle and pulling them together is the blueprint. And that's what we're going to give you today. Once the muscle full effect is triggered, meaning that the muscle is filled with the amount of protein that it can use in order to start the muscle protein process, which in effect prevents you from losing the muscle mass, which is our goal. Again, muscle protein synthesis to us means a whole lot different than muscle protein synthesis to a bodybuilder. What I'm trying to do with you guys is to prevent muscle loss. And what the bodybuilders are trying to do is they're going to use this same technology to actually increase muscle gain. We're going to be looking at a little bit of muscle gain, but as we go along, we want muscle gain in our 40s and 50s that we've lost the muscle in the 60s. We've lost muscle. We have to be looking at muscle gain as well as avoiding muscle loss. All right. How long does the muscle remain refractory, meaning that it's unresponsive to any more that you put into it? To additional protein intake. Let me go down here and see if nope. Somebody says D, somebody says C. How long does the body remain a unrefractor? Okay. So the muscle full effect is 3 hours, right? 3 hours. I put in 3 hours, D, approximately 3 hours. After the initial growth pulse, the machinery shuts down for a set window, and more protein during this time is simply burned for fuel. That's why I'm telling you, when our blueprint is going to include 40 grams of protein. Of that 40 grams of protein that I'm going to tell you to take in, it's going to have a dual effect. Number one, it's going to give you the leucine that turns the motor on, turns our motor, which is our mTOR, on. It turns our muscle protein synthesis, where we're preserving muscle, on. But in order to turn your muscle protein synthesis, which means making protein, we got to have the bricks to make the brick wall, to make the brick house. Just turning on the generator so that we can make all the stuff that puts the bricks together or makes the way ain't going to do it. You got to have the generator as well as the material. The 40 grams of protein is the material, and it just so happens to have that 2.5 to 3 grams of leucine. I'll explain that to you in a second. All right. Okay. Going over already. So let me just go ahead and do this. I get on this roll here, and I'm going to stop that part of the thing here. I'm going to get it to you because I got to show you this video. The video is only 8 minutes long, so don't fret. You're not going to be here much longer. All right, so I'm going to put the video in here. That was the quiz. Let's see if we can. I still hadn't made my video. That was going to be a beautiful video too. All right, so I'm going to show you this video explainer, and this is just. I'm going to sit back and let you listen to it, and then we're going to end up just a little early today. Okay. All right. Can everybody see that? I'm going to move this little thing out of my way that y'all can't see, but I can. Yep, I can see it on my iPhone. Okay. Very good. All right. Turn the volume up. Let's start. And I may stop it every now and then when it comes to something that sounds confusing. But anyway, and then I'm going to show you the kinds of protein that I take in, and how I take it in, and these are going to be a part of the blueprint. Because everybody asks me, what kind of protein do we need to take in? Well, there's casein protein, which is the slow protein that we want to take in at night, but there are only certain days. We take in our casein protein at night when we're going to do our resistance training. When we do our 3 days of autophagy, meaning that we're going to do the area where we're basically eating between 12 and 6 and giving us a full 18 hours to clean out our body, we're not going to be taking in the casein protein, and I'm going to show you why. So I may stop it, but I may not. Okay. I'm going to turn off my video and get to going here.
Let's jump right in. Today, we are pushing past all the noise of trendy diets, and we're stepping into the world of pure human physiology. We're going to lay out a very precise protocol, treating your body not as something to be starved or restricted, but as a high-performance system that you can actually engineer. This is about understanding the blueprint, your body's blueprint, and taking control. So, I got to ask you a question right off the bat. Are you just dieting, crossing your fingers and hoping for the best? Or are you ready to become the engineer of your own biology? Because believe me, those are two totally different mindsets, and only one of them gives you predictable, repeatable results. For far too long, the old model has just failed us, right? It's all about vague advice like eat less, move more, counting every single calorie, and being obsessed with that number on the scale. Metabolic engineering, it's a completely different game. It's about pulling the right levers, controlling the specific signals your body is designed to respond to, focusing on the health of your cells, and running precise targeted protocols. We're going to learn to speak the language of your own body. All right, let's get into the foundational signals. Your body, you see, it doesn't run on hopes or suggestions. It responds to direct biochemical commands. And these first two pillars, they're all about mastering the two most important signals of all, the command to reset and the command to grow. Now, here's something that might seem a little backward. Before you can send a clear signal to build and grow, you first have to get rid of all the metabolic background noise. That's why our first pillar, the fasting signal, isn't really about starving yourself. It's about creating a period of profound metabolic silence so that the next signal we send can be heard loud and clear. So how does this actually work? Well, on our reset days, we'll fast for 18 hours. And what this does is it deliberately drops our insulin levels way down to baseline. This drop in insulin then flips on a really important enzyme called AMPK. Now think of AMPK as your body's master metabolic switch or its energy sensor. When it senses energy is low, like during a fast, it literally commands your body to stop storing and start burning. It starts oxidizing stored fat, especially that nasty inflammatory fat around your organs, and it kicks off something called autophagy. That's your body's cellular cleanup crew, literally recycling old damaged parts like junk proteins and zombie cells. This isn't just a cleanse, it's a deep cellular reset. Okay, so once we've quieted everything down, it's time to send that growth signal. And this is so important to understand. Building muscle isn't like turning up a dimmer switch. You can't just kind of turn it on. It is a binary switch. It is either on or it is off. There is no in between. So what flips that switch? What turns the key in the ignition? It's this. About 3 grams of a very specific amino acid called leucine. That's the signal. And to get that signal, you need what's called a bolus or a pulse of about 30 to 40 grams of high quality protein all at once. Anything less and the key doesn't turn. The switch stays off. Simple as that. The very moment you hit that leucine threshold, a precise 3-step chain reaction kicks off. First, that binary switch for muscle growth flips to on. Second, the rate at which your body builds new muscle, we call that muscle protein synthesis, it literally triples. And third, and this is key, a 3-hour timer starts. A non-negotiable window where that muscle building machinery is running full tilt. Let's look at that 3-hour window. For the first 90 minutes or so, synthesis is at its absolute peak. Then it starts to decline. And after about 180 minutes, 3 hours, the muscle cell becomes completely unresponsive to any more protein. It's a phenomenon known as the muscle full effect. Basically, the machinery gets temporarily deaf to the signal, and understanding this is absolutely crucial for our entire protocol. And look, this isn't just a cool theory. It's backed by solid research. A really important study by a researcher named Mitchell found that trying to top up your protein during this 3-hour window, it's completely useless. It fails. The muscle is what they call refractory. It just won't listen. This is exactly why timing is everything and why we need distinct, separate protein pulses to get the job done. So we've sent the big signals for reset and for growth. But now we have to create the perfect internal environment to make sure those signals can actually travel without any interference. It's all about clearing the signal path. Our third pillar is what I call the glucose shield. See, a big, rapid spike in your blood sugar triggers a huge release of insulin. And while insulin has its uses, a massive flood of it can create a lot of static and interfere with the very specific muscle-building signal we're trying to send with leucine. So by managing our glucose response, we make sure that our protein signal is received with perfect clarity. And the tool for this is so simple. It's 10 grams of soluble fiber, taken just before your meal. And just look at the difference here. Without the fiber, you get this massive, sharp spike in blood sugar. With the fiber, you get this low, gentle rolling curve. It completely blunts that insulin surge, keeping the communication lines to your muscles wide open. Now, it's really important to get this right. We are specifically talking about soluble fiber here. That's things like psyllium husk, glucomannan, or the pectin you find in apples. This stuff dissolves in water and forms a thick gel in your stomach, which physically slows down how fast sugar gets into your bloodstream. This is totally different from insoluble fiber, what I call the broom, which you get from broccoli or spinach. That stuff is great for keeping you regular, but it does not form this protective glucose shield. Pillar number 4 is the mechanical override. You have to understand this about your body. Muscle is metabolically expensive. It costs a lot of energy to maintain. So your body, which is always looking for efficiency, will happily get rid of it if it thinks it's not needed. But muscle is so much more than just for moving stuff. It's a vital endocrine organ that releases these powerful molecules called myokines. Myokines improve fat burning. They improve glucose uptake. They do amazing things. So we have to send a powerful, undeniable survival signal that says, hey, we absolutely need this tissue. And that mechanical signal isn't just about lifting heavy weights. It's also about engineering your aerobic engine. The last piece of our puzzle is a simple respiratory hack that will fundamentally change your body's ability to use fat for fuel by optimizing your oxygen delivery system. The hack is this. During your lower intensity cardio, you breathe only through your nose. That's it. And here's the amazing physiology behind it. First, your sinuses produce nitric oxide, a powerful gas that opens up your blood vessels. When you breathe through your nose, you deliver that gas right to your lungs, improving their efficiency. Second, and this is the really cool part, nasal breathing allows you to build up a little bit more CO2 in your blood. This triggers something called the Bohr effect, where that CO2 basically tells your red blood cells to release their oxygen cargo right into your working muscles. The result, you become a dramatically more efficient fat-burning machine. Okay, so we have our 4 pillars, the fasting signal, the protein pulse, the fiber shield, and the fitness override. So how in the world do we put this all together? Let's walk through the blueprint. This is a day in the life of a metabolic engineer using 2 different protocols during the week. 3 days a week, we're doing autophagy and reset days. The protocol is an 18-6 fast. You'll start your day with a fasted walk, breathing only through your nose. Then in your 6-hour eating window from noon to 6 p.m., you'll have 3 perfectly timed 40-gram protein pulses. Now, notice what's missing. No resistance training on these days. That's on purpose. The goal here is to maximize cleanup and fat burning, not to send a conflicting growth signal. The focus is 100% on cellular reset. The other 3 days are your muscle growth days. Here, we switch to a 16-8 schedule, which gives us a wider eating window to fit in a 4th protein pulse. We still start with that fasted nasal breathing walk, but at 5 p.m., we hit the weights. This makes your muscles incredibly sensitive for the protein pulse you'll have for dinner an hour later. And then the final pulse at 9 p.m. is slow digesting casein, which acts like an overnight shield, dripping amino acids to your muscles to prevent them from breaking down while you sleep. So what do these 40-gram pulses actually look like in terms of food? Well, a whey isolate shake is honestly the most efficient way to do it, but you can absolutely get there with whole foods. A big serving of Greek yogurt, a good-sized 6 to 8 ounce steak or piece of salmon, or a chicken breast will all get you that critical 3-gram dose of leucine to flip the muscle building switch. And for that final pulse on growth days, cottage cheese is a fantastic source of casein. And that's it. That's the protocol. The signals, the environmental controls, the daily blueprint. The information isn't a secret anymore. So the question is no longer, what do I do? The question is a much simpler one. You have the blueprint. Are you ready to stop dieting and start engineering?
Okay, so let me turn the video back on. I wonder if this thing did. Nope, it's still generating. But anyway, I know that's a lot. And the reason that I know that is because somebody came into the office today and said that was decent information. But every time I listen to it myself, I get something from it. I get something different from it. So I don't expect you always to listen to it in this particular platform and know what it is that I know. So that's why we're going to upload it to the website, so you can listen to it over and over and over again. And we're going to listen to it in the form of an audio. And I want you to do your walking with this audio on. Put your headphones on, your earplugs on, phones on, and basically walk. It'll last about 20 minutes. So you start your clock when you start doing your zone two walking, and basically you finish your zone two walking, the audio portion will end. And in the chat box, let me ask you a question because I'm just kind of curious. How many of y'all knew about the Bohr effect? Or how many of y'all knew that breathing through your nose was actually producing nitric oxide? Is that something that's new to you guys, or is something that you knew all along? Because most times when I see people exercising, even when they're doing zone two walking, they're breathing through their mouths. Okay? How many of you knew? Okay, so somebody says, I knew this already. Who was that? Oh, that's somebody who's been here before. Yep. Very good. Very good. Somebody says, I knew because you told me at the follow-up appointment. All right. All right. Very good. Yeah. And those are the bits of information that I want to continue to give you because there are hundreds of them. But the one thing I promised myself that I would not do during these webinars is to give you information overload. Because when I do that, it goes in one ear out the other. Because even certain people who actually heard me talk over and over and over again, I asked them again, okay, fine, how many grams of protein a year are you taking in a day? Well, I get it on about 60, 70. And I said, do you know how much you're supposed to get? No. And so it became apparent that I was giving them too much information. So I'm breaking these things down intentionally. And that's why it's important for you to come back. Because next week I'll add something else. Let me see if I can find one other thing to let y'all know what we're going to be offering next week. Let me see if I can find it first, and then I'll show it to you. Um, I'll, I'll get back. I'm gonna put it here, and I'm gonna share my screen with you shortly. Wireframe. All right, let me see if I can go back to here. Next week I'm basically gonna try to show you this. This is what our app is gonna look like. And we're going to basically kind of give you the muscle build recovery time. You're going to have 12 to 9. I'm going to give this away, but it's going to be kind of cool. So you get started, you'll be able to kind of put in your safety screens and say, okay, fine. Before starting, please check any of the following conditions that you may have, kidney disease and all that, and reflux and all that stuff. And then you go to next. And so all of these things what's your primary goal, your age, your weight, you'll be able to put that in. Muscle preservation, metabolic health, post-weight loss maintenance, GLP-1 support, all that kind of stuff. All right. And then as you go through, you'll be able to tell me what your exercise level is. I'm a beginner. As you go through, you'll be able to, it'll give you this protocol. All right. So and you can adjust this. Like I like to do my fasting and muscle building on alternate days. So you say on Monday, I'm going to do repair. That's the autophagy. On Tuesday, I'm going to do the muscle building. But you can also do all three, as far as autophagy for the first 3 days. And then the next three, you can make it to where it's all this. And then the seventh day is flexible. So this is that 3, 3, and 1. 3, 3, and 1. We're going to make it a flexible. You can either do either one or whatever. And then as you continue to go through this, I'm going to show you everything as far as the library is concerned, how much protein you're taking and all this. And all of these things are going to be, if you're interested in it, is going to be backed up by the latest science. And you'll be able to read the articles. And I've even, in each one of those articles, I've broken them down into into layman's terms. So I think this is going to be very, very, very helpful for you guys. Let's see, you can go to the learning process. It talks about even what is insulin resistance. It says 5 days to understand insulin resistance may make fat loss harder. Fiber before meals may help smooth glucose and insulin spikes. Protein pulsing may help support muscle So it gives you information along with what to do. And you say, well, why am I doing this? You come here and say, well, what is insulin resistance? It gives you the answer. And then it'll take you to the reference as well. So psyllium fiber, for instance, like here says, psyllium fiber reduces rise in prostaglandin glucose, and it'll actually take you to the article if you want to. If you want to know where I'm getting the information from, it'll take you to that article. And then after you read the article, you can go back and I'll break that article down into layman's terms. So I think it's going to be something, why fiber before meals, and it tells you taking viscous fiber 10 to 15 minutes before meals may reduce the insulin spike that follows eating, especially meals containing carbohydrates, and it gives the science. So it tells the articles that I got this from. Okay, so then it talks about the protein pulses. A lot of people don't understand protein pulses, so we can go and look at where this has been. It's been in our faces all along, but nobody's really told you about it. Muscle is your glucose thing. So it continues to go on, and you go through this process. This is the learning process. But again, the basic thing is you start a checklist. And as you go through your checklist, drink enough water, reach protein goal, it tells you how you've done it. So it's just sort of like your watch. It'll tell you, and I'll make it into the form of a watch app as soon enough. But it'll also said I took my fiber before I completed resistance training. I took the fiber before the meal. Depending upon which day you're on, it's going to give you the things you're supposed to do. All right. So that's what's coming, and that's what I'm going to give away this process uh, next week. Then I'm adding one final addition to this thing is that where you'll be able to communicate with me. I mean, if you have some questions about things of that nature, it'll kind of give me, just like you're doing in the chat box, you'll be able to talk to me. I'll get to as much as I possibly can. But what I'm really gonna upload to it, just the way that it's gonna be, is all my knowledge base, all the websites knowledge base, all the ASMBS knowledge base, and you will get somebody who sounds like me, but it may not be me, but it'll eventually say, "Is this you?" You'll be able to say, "Is this you?" I want really to talk to Dr. Duncan. So that's where we're going with this. That's in the new age of how we're doing these things, and so I hope you guys continue to come back and kind of keep that going. Uh, Finally, I'm finished with this is the protein. That's the convenient protein. So if I go somewhere today, I can't take this is my normal type of protein that I take or that I mix, okay? Because it contains 30 grams. I need 40 grams. So I take a scoop and a half of this. All right. So it gives me my 3 grams of leucine and it gives me amino acid building blocks. This is what I take when I take at 12 o'clock. This is what I'm going to take. If I'm out and about at 12 o'clock, I'll take this with me. Now, doesn't contain the amount of leucine. So I always have a little bit of pack of leucine that goes with me. I got a little pouch of leucine. This leucine contains 5 grams of leucine, right? 5 grams of leucine. So you can, and the scoop is only, let's see, I'm sure you how big the scoop is. So you only need 2.5 grams. So you just take half the scoop. So this is the scoop. Okay. So I just take half of this and I'll take half of this and I'll put it in to this thing, boom, and I'll take it with me. So I know I'm getting my protein, and I know I'm getting my leucine because I won't be able to take this with me. All right. On my workout days and my muscle building days, I take the casein, because I need the casein to give me my amino acids throughout the night. Put this back. But again, if I can't take the casein, or I'm just don't feel like it's at night, I don't feel like mixing a drink, I take this. This is 42 grams, and it contains 80% casein, which is just kind of milk. And the other things that you can take if you don't, or if you're lactose intolerant and all that, is soy or pea protein or rice protein. You can get these things in rice protein and soy protein, those kinds of things. So if you are lactose intolerant or you don't take in, if you're a vegan, then may not be for you. Okay, but this is actually casein milk, and so I'll down this before I go to bed. That's easy enough for me to do, and it gives me amino acids throughout the night. All of this is just in the process of preserving muscle, because I'm just going to reiterate it one last time. Maintaining your muscle mass is crucial if you don't want to be on a walker and in a wheelchair later on. You may have your mind. There's going to be a certain number of people that will still be able to think and remember back in the good old days, but somebody pushing you around in a walker or a wheelchair is not how you really want to age. I don't think. I don't think. All right. I enjoy this tremendously. I hope you all got something out of it. I always ask you to put into the chat box that you got something out of it and what did you get out of it. If you'll do that right now, I appreciate it. And basically, I will see you next week. We'll begin to launch that app. I'll be giving it away to you. Showing you how to get it. I'll give you a QR code so you can get it and start using it, because it's just giving you the blueprint of what it is you're supposed to be doing. It is not anything I want you to get it clear with your primary care doctor first, especially. But they shouldn't find a whole lot wrong with that, because it's just about eating the right types of foods, including the proteins and things of that nature. So it's no drugs, okay? It's just food, and it's basically exercise. So they're telling you all the time, just eat right and exercise. Now I'm going to give you an app to show you what that means. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I really appreciate you there. And I'll see you next week, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Okay. Take care. Bye bye.